The Scream Kings are in no way responsible for any encounters with the paranormal, extraterrestrial abductions, eldritch insanity, hauntings, hexes, curses, demonic possessions, cryptozoological sightings, or any loss of sleep from listening to this podcast.
This is the Scream Kings podcast. I'm Max George.
I'm Nathaniel Dargish.
I'm NJ Gallegos.
Shame that your guinea pig had to be a homicidal maniac like Jack Frost, who I now have to put back in a podcast.
All right.
Oh boy.
Max is already suffering.
I can feel the pain.
Yes. All right. Well, it's not just us three Scream Kings. We also have the wonderful, illustrious Brian McAuley, who is returning as a guest. And I'll let you take it from there. To tell us a little bit about yourself for the folks who haven't heard you on the show before.
Hey, everybody. My name's Brian McAuley. I'm a WGA screenwriter and published novelist. And my debut novel, Curse of the Reaper, I was on to talk about last time. That was a Hollywood horror novel. And here to talk this year about Candy Cain Kills, which is my Christmas slasher novella.
Excellent. All right, so let's talk a little bit about you as a horror fan before we get into your excellent work. So tell us about like some of your favorite horror. What is the kind of stuff that you tend to gravitate towards?
You know, I tend towards the slashers. I grew up, watching all the big franchises. Like Scream was a big gateway movie for me, and that led me to the Friday the 13th and the Nightmare on Elm Streets and everything else. So I've always had a big soft spot for slashers. And yeah, Christmas theme wise, Black Christmas is such a good one. I'm going to be seeing it on the big screen in a couple weeks. Which I'm really looking forward to. I haven't revisited it in a while. And then another one that I love is the French film Inside, which takes place on Christmas Eve and is super intense, single night, single location, home invasion sort of slasher vibes. Yeah.
Both excellent choices. Definitely a harrowing choice when it comes to Inside.
Whew. Yeah, it's intense.
And as a horror fan, what are you like most scared of? What gets under your skin the most?
I mean, definitely people. I've never, I love like
terrible. They're just terrible.
What are we doing here? I grew up loving monsters too. Like Tremors is one of my all-time favorites that I revisit often. But monsters and ghosts and stuff don't really scare me. People absolutely terrify me. So I think that's why I'm most drawn to slashers.
Yes. I can definitely see the appeal of slashers with how often the monsters are people. Along those lines, are you also like really drawn to a lot of like kind of more of the serial killer stuff, or mostly just the little bit wackier?
I mean, I think less serial killer, more like psychological horror. I love, even something like The Talented Mr. Ripley is a movie that I never get tired of. Just the tension of that. Those kinds of like really tense psychological thriller dramas that are, focused on characters that are compelling. I think that's the key element for me, is that I tend to lose interest if I'm not really invested in the people that are populating the story.
Fair. Should we shift gears and talk a little bit about your Christmas slasher?
Sure. Let's do it.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about Candy Cain Kills, the plot, and kind of tease our audience. I know at least two of us have read it, and we'll have good things to say about it. But yeah, give us the sales pitch.
So this book is part of Shortwave Publishing's Killer VHS series, which Booklist has dubbed Goosebumps for Grown-Ups. They're individual novellas from individual authors, so they're standalones, but they all have really like throwback covers to like 80s VHS horror tapes that you would see back on the shelves in the VHS days. And all the stories incorporate some kind of found footage element as well. And Candy Cain Kills is about a family that is, on the rocks. The parents are on the verge of divorce. The teenage son, Austin, and his younger sister, Fiona, are at odds. And dad drags them all to this remote, snowy winter cabin to bring the family together. And unfortunately, that plan goes awry when they discover that a family was murdered here, allegedly, on Christmas 10 years ago, and that this legendary killer by the name of Candy Cain might be more than a local ghost story.
Wow.
Yeah, that was cool. That gave me little goosey bumps.
You're welcome, guys.
Great flair.
Well, so what made you decide to write a Christmas slasher?
It was actually when Alan Listufka, the editor at Shortwave, he invited me to pitch an idea for this series. And the platform for it was already exciting to me, like the throwback 80s vibes. But when he said, if you do it, your book would be the second in the series and it would come out probably November, December. That was when I keyed in and was like, would you be cool with me writing like a holiday horror thing or like specifically a Christmas slasher? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. And at that point, I did not have any story or anything in mind. But the very first thing that came to me was the name Candy Cain, Cain. And that from there, I was just off and running, developing this legend of mixing this biblical story with the holiday treat and cheer of it all. And it just kind of, it really all flowed from that basic, building the legend first and then creating the characters that would be running unwittingly into the crosshairs of that legend. And then just to have so much fun with the mixing of all the brightness and holiday cheer and Christmas carols with just brutal violence.
You
That
killed
always
it.
makes my Christmas better.
If you're not stabbing somebody with a pointed candy cane, is it really Christmas?
Absolutely not. It's the only way we really know.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what the holiday is really about. That's what they're talking about on Fox News, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably.
I have to say, one, I just when I got my copy of the book, I was just thrilled to get it with like the full experience of it, kind of having the full holiday. Well, I guess the whole like VHS vibes, and then opening up and getting the delightful holiday themed everyone's screaming on ornaments cover. But yeah, like the box it came in almost looked like a kind of a big, cardboard version of a VHS clamshell, and it had like a membership card, like a Blockbuster card, and it just did such wonderful things for all of my nostalgia for the 90s, going to Blockbuster with my family and renting movies and seeing all of the scary movies that I was afraid of because I was a very sheltered, scared child. One of which is one of the ones that we're going to talk about. That
I know, right? That was, And I mean, Alan did an incredible job with that was part of the pitch as well. When he invited me to write something, he, mentioned that it would be in these, Blockbuster throwback boxes with a membership card. And I was like, that's what I want to be a part of, is like creating an experience for the reader, not just in the book, but everything from the cover design that I got to, speak directly with the artist, and we all got to kind of fine tune everything together, like to collaborate creatively in that way and create this, this whole experience. It was really a delight.
Yeah, and even like I love that some of the design on the pages, has like a like tracking lines and the play icon and the stop icon and all of that. It really came together nicely in a neat little package that also was just a delight to read.
I'm so thrilled to hear it. Thank you.
Thank you. I've been asking all the questions. Someone else ask questions.
So, yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I enjoyed the most about this novella was each chapter switches point of view character, which I thought, really helped with the character development and gave you, you got concerned about the characters. How did you kind of happen upon that?
Yeah, great question. I did not know. So, I am a big outliner, especially coming from my background in screenwriting. It's just kind of how I like to conceive of the story before I get into a draft. So I outlined the entire story when I pitched it to Alan, and not a lot of the story changed, but in the outline, I wasn't specifically talking about point of view characters. And it wasn't until I started drafting the story that I realized, I was like, oh, actually, I thought it would mostly be from Austin's perspective as the protagonist, the teenage boy. But once I got to like the chapter 2 or 3, Fiona, his sister, just like really came alive on the page in a way that she made it clear to me that like I was not going to get away with not giving her POV chapters. And I was just delighted that she just was so clear to me. And then from there, the next chapter, just very organically, I realized, I was like, I think it's mom's turn. I think we need the parents as well, that this can't just be from the kid's POV, that we want to see and feel all of these family dynamics and tensions from each person's point of view, because that also puts us in the position of really feeling the pain of the miscommunications, of like knowing what people are going through and the secrets that they're keeping, or the pain that they're hiding from each other, and their inability to kind of come together kind of makes us kind of yearn for that and root for them in a way, I think. So it kind of just naturally flowed from there.
Yeah, it was perfect. You did that with a very, very deft hand. And, I was hooked immediately because you get into one person's head, then you're bouncing around. Although I have to say, Fiona was probably my favorite.
Yeah.
She's a little bit of a ball buster, that one.
Yeah, she seems to be standing out as a favorite, and I'm delighted by it, because she's definitely my favorite.
Yeah. I want to see Fiona again. If, Candy Cain Kills Part 2, if Max is okay with the sequel.
I mean, that might be, but I'll be back. We'll talk about the sequel, and we'll watch Jack Frost 2.
Yep, there we go.
All right, let's go.
I'm busy that day. I'm sorry.
You're washing your hair, are you, Max?
Shaving my legs. So.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
One thing that I'd love to get some insight on is kind of just like the balancing act of like the natural absurdity of slashers with like how well-rounded your characters are. While NJ was reading it, we had a conversation about like how well you nailed the teenage son. It was Austin, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, him, as he's kind of realizing that, like, hey, maybe he, is romantically interested in his best friend when, so he's questioning his sexuality and all of that kind of stuff. And just like, there's a lot of these like really grounded, really strong character moments, but it's also like, a Christmas slasher that feels kind of silly and fun and wacky in that way that slashers feel. So yeah. How did you balance those things?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I don't know how much it was conscious so much as just like that. The more I write, the more I've realized that is my kind of niche and my voice, because that's what I'm most interested in. Is that I love like character-driven dramas, and I love really over-the-top campy horror slashers, and I refuse to not have my cake and eat it too. So it just felt, and I think that there's something really, especially coming from my background with screenwriting, where you don't get the opportunity to get into these characters' inner lives when you're writing a screenplay. And so switching gears into writing novels and short stories and novellas, I feel like I'm even more excited and eager to get into those characters' inner lives. and then to play in more detail about, you know, the gruesome kill scenes, to really lean into the creativity, because I don't have to worry about like a budget like I do when I'm screenwriting and working with producers and directors, and like, well, how are we going to pull off this scene, or how are we going to make that the gore effects look real, or CGI versus practical. Like when you're writing a book, it's just like
$500 million budget.
Just go for it. Yeah, there was one, I don't want to get into spoilers, but yeah, there was a moment that came later in a revision when I realized, I was like, oh right, I don't have a budget, so I can just blow shit up if I want to. Like why would I not blow something up? But yeah, it's really fun to write the really messy, gory scenes and to play with the language and the imagery, especially when you're writing from the point of view of somebody who's experiencing all of that.
I guess kind of the last question I want to throw at you, and of course others can throw more about your book before we move on to Jack Frost, is just, you know, I'd love to hear just about how you are also kind of balancing a lot of the humor and the genuine horror as well, because yeah, like there were moments I laughed out loud, and there's also moments that I'm like, that was brutal. So
yeah, there's I think what I would say is that I write first and foremost to entertain myself on both the horror front and the humor front. So if I can come up with a kill that I'm like, ooh, that's upsetting, that's grisly, and I haven't seen that before, then I'm like, I know I'm on the right track, and I'm going to push myself to go there. And then with the humor, yeah, I think it's part of it is, you know, being true to the characters and their sense of humor. Like Fiona has a very particular sense of humor, and just kind of, yeah, what would make me laugh through this character or with this character, and just finding the balance, I think, too, right, of like knowing when you have to kind of slow down for a human moment of like fear or grief, and then say, okay, well, we're not going to linger here, we're going to add a little joke or move it onward into the next action beat. I think a lot of that comes from having done so much screenwriting work as well, in terms of pacing, and just being such a fan of folks like Jordan Peele, who just mastered the art of humor and horror so well, and just trying to deconstruct. I'm also a professor of film, so it's a joy to be able to, like, I recently screened Get Out for my class, and we got to talk about in detail about what works so well about that balanced tone. Yeah.
I have to say, I would love to just be a fly on the wall in your class, as whenever you tweet about the different horror pieces that you get to expose a lot of your students to. I remember you talking about doing like a table read of the Scream script, and just the delight of that kind of thing seems wonderful.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's a dream job. Yeah, we table read the first, you know, the opening sequence, the Casey Becker sequence from Kevin Williamson's original script, which the title page says Scary Movie, because that's what it was called when they sold it. And the kids played the parts, I mean the students rather. And then we watched the film and talked about how it was, you know, brought to life through all the different elements, but half of them had never seen Scream. So it was just like wild to think that their first exposure was actually reading the screenplay pages in class, and then getting to watch it. It's just, yeah, it's a dream.
That's amazing. So I have to say, you, now I am terrified of snowballs, so yeah. I'd like to add that. So thank you for adding to another phobia of mine. Very much appreciated.
You're so welcome.
And then one thing I enjoyed, which I didn't actually catch initially, I had listened to one of your other, the podcasts that you were on. I think it was We Bleed Orange and Black, and realized that you were weaving almost like kind of lyrics to some of the Christmas carols into this, but like your own spin on it. Because I generally hate Christmas carols other than the Mariah Carey song, Max, Get Wrecked. I don't care that you hate it. It's whatever.
No, I love that song.
Or wait, no, it was Nathaniel.
Nathaniel.
Oh.
Nathaniel. Ugh.
Wow.
So I'm not as familiar with a lot of the Christmas carols. So I was like, oh, look at this. Like,
Yeah, that was once I realized that a lot of Christmas carols are in the public domain. I was like, oh, I can just straight up use these lyrics to songs like "God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen" and "Away in a Manger," and this book is the Cain, the Cain Cain spelling is not, it carries meaning, and this is a book that deals with religious trauma in many ways. So a lot of those Christmas carols and the lyrics, I realized, just have a strange sort of creepy vibe to them, and it felt very natural to kind of just infuse those into the scenes and find, all right, which Christmas carol fits which gory set piece, and how can I kind of interweave. And the audiobook is so wonderful because Elizabeth Rogers brought Candy Cain to life so creepily in singing those those Christmas carols. It is it's a different experience.
I'm gonna have to use an Audible credit for that one then.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you also made me like laugh out loud. Just some of the stuff that you put. One of my favorites is tetanus trap, which I'm going to be stealing. I adore that.
Yes. Oh, Fiona.
Yeah, Fiona. I think we should just get T-shirts that are like Team Fiona.
Yes.
But yeah, you freaking nailed it, my friend.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, love it.
All right, Nathaniel, NJ, do you guys have any final questions for Brian?
Oh no, I do. So,
this is why I'm asking.
So I was being a creep before you came on the episode and Googling you and looking at your IMDb, and I saw that you had written an episode of Fuller House.
Yes. This is a funny little piece of my resume and experiences that I wrote an episode on the first season of Fuller House, the Netflix family sitcom reboot. And it was a wild experience. Yeah, we shot, on the Warner Brothers lot with the live studio audience. It was a very surreal experience. But yeah, and that's, I think, as well, working both in drama and horror and comedy. It was like at the same time that I was working on that, I sold my own series pitch to Sci-Fi Network, and that was like a pretty serious horror drama project. So I've always kind of had that weird split between horror and humor. But yeah, working on a sitcom like that is almost surreal to the point of being its own kind of David Lynchian nightmare to begin with. But but it was great to be able to be like, as we're talking about, characters and their voices, like, okay, I've got to write Kimmy Gibbler. What's a good Kimmy Gibbler joke? Like, it's a fun sandbox to play in.
Kimmy Gibbler is my Patronus.
Well, that's the T-shirt.
That's a better T-shirt. That's a better
thank you. I love her.
She was definitely the most fun because it was really just like how her brand of humor, like Danny Tanner, like his main joke is like he's a clean freak, so like most of his jokes come from that, which is like, all right. But Kimmy, it's just like, she's just fucking weird. Like, that's the brand. Go for it and see if they push back. Because I snuck some jokes in there that I thought were going to get pushed back, and they somehow made it through.
Anything else you wanted to bring up before we dive into this movie?
I mean,
please say yes.
Why wait?
Oh, Lord.
Look, I gave two options and you all chose this, so
I didn't.
No, the other, me and NJ did, and I regret nothing.
Same.
Oh,
I feel like my life is enriched for having watched it, to be honest with you.
I think it's important. It's important viewing.
Agreed.
Yes. Okay, so yes, we are talking about Jack Frost, the direct-to-video B movie from 1997, directed by Michael Cooney, written by Michael Cooney and Jeremy Page. And as I mentioned earlier, This is a movie that scared me from a distance when I was a very small child.
Yeah, to be fair, the cover for this is pretty gnarly.
Yeah.
And is not representative of the movie inside it.
Not at all.
It has, I forget what it's called. It's not technically a holograph, but it's the kind of image where if you look at it from a different angle, it shows you something different, just for folks who are listening who don't know. So it's like a happy snowman from one angle, and then from another angle, it's got the skeletal nose and sharp teeth, and it becomes a horribly monstrous image. And the tagline is, "He's chillin' and killin'." And this was also important when I was talking to Alan at Shortwave about, Killer VHS. I was like, look, we got to put a tagline on the cover that sells that it's an old VHS to me. And I pitched him, oh, what fun it is to die. And he was like, great, let's do it. And
the nice snowman on that front reminds me, do you guys remember the Campbell's chicken soup? It's the cold snowman who comes inside.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's part of it, and then the movie just kept going. So
I would believe that the writer was inspired by that Campbell's ad.
I could see it.
Yeah. So but I mean, before we even get into just how wild and stupid and insane this movie is, which we'll of course get to in just a moment when we when we go over the plot. Did you know that originally this movie was supposed to have a big budget?
And it was supposed to be directed by Rennie Harlin.
Yes.
Of Deep Blue Sea fame.
Yeah. What could have been?
There was originally going to be a $30 million version of this movie, as opposed to the less than $1 million version that we got.
It made the most of their money. I'll give them that. I mean, they didn't spend any of it on actual snow, but they spent it elsewhere.
Others who could act, but yes. All right. Well, do you want to do the honors, Brian, of giving us the plot? Please feel free to go into spoiler country.
Oh my God, I wasn't prepared, so this will be so delightful to see if I can. So Jack Frost tells the story of a serial killer named Jack Frost, who is at the start of the film going through a prison transfer, as you do in a horror movie. And his
executed.
I've
right.
got to stop you,
and
Brian.
You're right. The truck literally says execution transfer truck or something.
The movie though really starts with that creepy girl and grandpa maybe. And he's telling her about
the death of Jack Frost during his prison transfer.
Well, I think he's telling. I did not like those voices. They were they were upsetting. But
one of the voices is the voice of the director, by the way.
Of course. But I will say, I really loved the credits being on hand painted on ornaments. I thought that was really it was a lovely detail. But yeah, it's a British grandpa telling the story to a non-British grandchild, I believe. Mm-hmm. And telling the story of Jack Frost as a serial killer who was, and he was caught, and it ends with him saying and tonight he's being transferred, and then we cut into or he's being executed to the execution transfer truck, and it collides with a genetic waste. What is it? Toxic
acid.
Genetic
it's acid.
It's a genetic research truck that's just driving around with genetic research on it, unsecured.
but yeah, they called it genetic acid or something, molecular acid. Something.
I did love the
sciencey
practical effects and the way they do that crash of the people spinning in the truck and the bodies being thrown out of the wreckage, and then man, when the acid just shoots out of the truck and just coats Jack Frost and he starts melting, it's very good special effects there.
Yeah. That was probably the best part of the film for me.
That was probably $900,000 of their $1 million
laid
budget.
downhill from there.
Literally.
Yeah, and then we get some real good 3D animation of his blood mingling with snow cells.
Oh my god. When
learned
that
about
happened,
snow cells in medical school. You guys
Yeah.
didn't?
when that scene came on, I took a picture and sent it to MJ and Nathaniel and just essentially said, "What the fuck?"
It's so good. And then we get taken to the town of Snowmanton.
Oh, Jesus,
Town
take
of
the wheel.
Snowmanton, which is where the sheriff who actually caught Jack Frost is still haunted by the fact that Jack Frost, as he was being carried away from the court, said, "I'll kill you and I'll kill your whole town and I'll find a way." And
Well, then he said it 20 more times throughout the rest of the movie.
And said is maybe not the right word. It was more
I'll
just,
find a way.
just screamed with his whole body.
yes, while doing like a Jack Torrance impression the whole time. I feel like that was his reference point for the actor. But
Oh, for sure. It
Yeah.
was definitely like, hey, let's take Jack Torrance and turn him up to an 11. But also badly.
so yeah, then the Jack Frost is now a killer snowman and he starts wreaking havoc in the sheriff's town. And yeah. So this was this anybody's first time seeing it?
Oh,
All
all three of us.
Yeah.
Wait, you hadn't seen it either, Nathaniel?
I had seen clips, but I hadn't actually watched it all the way
Wow.
through. And
Yeah.
so that's why I was so excited when I realized that there's a Riff Tracks version. I'm like, oh, I'm going to totally force this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's it's what's interesting is I checked the filming location because I was like, this is definitely filmed in California, and it is, but it's specifically filmed in Big Bear, which is where Candy Cain Kills is actually set. I did not realize the fortuitous nature of being in that San Bernardino mountain area.
That's kind of cool.
But yeah, they definitely are riffing on like Jaws a whole lot with like the sheriff and all the townsfolk getting upset because people are dying, and then they throw in like the FBI agent and the mad scientist.
Jesus.
They just like put everything in this movie.
Yes. We have to talk about, the FBI agent who was just the weirdest character. Just in terms of like he's just like the biggest jerk to everyone, and just is also really vague and sketchy, and seems to also somehow be working for the mad scientist who created the acid that makes people turn into snowman monsters. And it was really vague and sketchy, and he just keeps talking about how he's going to bring in a bunch of backup to take care of stuff, which of course they can't get in because it's snowing so hard that they can't get in.
Yeah.
Which is very convincing with the whole like 3 cups of snow in the film.
It's literally like white blankets that they just like laid over the over the grass.
Yeah. It's just a treat. Just that character was deeply terrible. I mean, like, just everyone in the town just makes zero sense. It's truly a masterpiece of like bad B filmmaking.
And the kills often defy physics. Like there's a kid who gets decapitated by a sled, and it doesn't make any sense, especially because they're not even going downhill. They're just starting to sled entirely flat land, and somehow the sled manages, even though it's like an inch off the ground, to decapitate that kid.
and had only gone like 3 feet.
Yeah, and similar with the axe. Somebody gets an axe, which I appreciated, that you think he's going to get hit with, the business end of the axe, and Jack Frost shoves it wooden handle first down the guy's throat, but then he falls back in such a way that, where did the rest of the axe go? I don't understand, but that's part of the charm, I think.
Before we get any further on with kind of the chaos of this film, should we focus in a little bit on what we did actually like about the film? Rather
Yes.
than, the chaos.
That's what I like about the film.
Sure.
I agree. I appreciate that it is this really weird hodgepodge of like references that I was like, oh, they're definitely trying to do a Jaws thing here, and I think the FBI guy is kind of like a Die Hard thing, and then the mad scientist. Like, I feel like they're really playing with a lot of different movie references, and it's very watchable compared to many other bad movies. Like, I did not find it boring. It is. There's lots of chaotic set pieces that I thought were quite entertaining, but yeah.
I agree. This is definitely like right in that Goldilocks zone of like so bad it's good. Like, you can watch it with friends and make fun of it and laugh. And, you know, along those lines, you know, I know I watched it this way, and I know NJ watched it this way. We watched the versions that had riff tracks. So for those of you who are not in the know, Riff Tracks is made by the people who did Mystery Science Theater 3000. Basically, they just have audio tracks that you can, you know, listen to with bad movies to make them much more enjoyable, because it's, you know, comedians making fun of it the whole time as you're watching it. And I'll say I watch a lot of really bad movies with Riff Tracks, or just, you know, through Mystery Science Theater. And so as soon as I saw that, like I mentioned before, it clinched. I'm like, I must watch this movie, and I'm going to watch the Riff Tracks version, because it always brings delight to my life.
Yeah,
I watched it in its purity.
Pure as the driven snow.
The
Whatever
white
snow
blankets.
was in that movie.
NJ, what did you like? You're kind of a sucker for corny films like this, right?
I am. I can't help it. It's me. It's just what it pleases me. I enjoyed just the absurdity of pretty much all of it, but like, you know, if you're just watching, like when Brian, you were talking about them in the execution truck rolling around, there's like a snowman that like flops off in the frame. They're all wearing garland, like the prison guards are wearing garland for some reason, because you know that's something you wear when you're transporting a death row prisoner. And like,
and loudly saying Jack roasting on an open fire, or whatever it was.
And just like the cheesy little, like, there's little nods, you know, like one of the cops, he's eating a Pez from a snowman Pez dispenser. I think that's probably what they blew most of their budget on, if you want to know the truth.
Yep, that Pez.
Pez is expensive.
Yeah, have you ever seen a Pez dispenser? They're like $5.
Depending on how many takes they had to do.
That's like half their budget right there. Unrelated to anything that they made in the movie, but it endlessly delights me that this movie came out a year before the CGI Michael Keaton family heartwarming movie, where Michael Keaton is a deadbeat dad who gets turned into a snowman and learns to love his family. I just love that they came out within a year of each other, and I love that the internet revels in how often people would pull the prank of just switching the tapes in Blockbusters or other movie rental places, so that way, you know, a family might take one, you know, what they're thinking is going to be a charming family film, and suddenly it's this, and vice versa. People are like, I'm going to watch a bad horror movie, and it's just Michael Keaton as a very bad snowman.
Yeah.
It's like Rickrolling.
Yes. And apparently that was just like a constant issue in like all movie stores all over America that had both of them, which was basically all of them.
So people would get this and they're like, I've been frosted again.
I hope that's what they called it. I hope.
Yeah. There were a
snowballed.
lot of I think snowballing is very different.
I think we watched snowballing in this film when that poor girl was like
So the first time I saw this when I was much younger, I did not understand what was happening in that scene. So revisiting that was deeply unpleasant. It was like, no.
Apparently, actually, that wasn't the intention, and then they realized after the fact that it looked like that, so then they just added more jokes.
Yeah, jokes. They got a lot of jokes in here.
Yeah, yeah. Added more one-liners for Jack to say.
Can we also talk about how it took me a while to put it together because I was watching Jill, the girlfriend of some guy. It doesn't even matter who these people are. It's whatever. But she turns out to be the actress from American Pie that's the exchange student.
Yeah, Shannon Elizabeth, yeah.
And yes. And she was like, I mean, I would say out of anybody, she was the one acting her ass off. That whole bathtub scene where she blew dried her hair for 15 minutes before getting into a bathtub.
That stuff I love beautiful. In these kinds of movies where you're like, okay, two teenagers, their goal is to have sex, but they decide to sneak into the sheriff's home while he's away in order to do it.
Yeah.
And then she tells him to get some wine ready while she goes and blow dries her hair before getting into a bath.
And then takes a bath.
And he, meanwhile, is pouring wine and adding ice to it. It's just everything about it defies what humans do. I just don't understand.
I mean, I do buy one thing, and that's that a teenage boy would just put so much ice into cups of wine.
It did look like a rosé, so I could buy, a nice chilled rosé situation.
But I mean, he had plenty of time to chill it outside if he wanted, because she was clearly letting him stew.
And the one-liner there when Jack Frost reveals himself and the kid goes, "What are you?" and Jack Frost says, "World's most pissed off snow cone." It was like, it's one of those, and this will take me back to Fuller House here, is sometimes people would, in the writer's room, pitch a joke, and it would be like, that's not actually a joke, but the way you're saying it, so the phrase that I heard, I think is common in comedy rooms actually, is like, it quacks like a joke, which is to say, it has the rhythm and is in the place of where a joke should be, like ba-da-ba-ba-ba. But then when you actually look at the words, you're like, but it's not actually a joke. There's no humor. And that's what World's Most Pissed Off Snow Cone for me brought up, was just like, what? I don't...
Yes.
And that was every single line that Jack delivered as he was killing people.
No, it was the entire movie, guys.
Wait, but there was one comedic set piece that to me was genuinely really funny physical comedy, which was when they first find Old Man Harper in his rocking chair, the frozen dude, and it's the deputies and the sheriff having a conversation while the old man is rocking in front of them the whole time. And then sheriff finally turns to the deputy and he's like, "Take your foot off the chair." And then the old man stops rocking, and you realize that the deputy had just been rocking the guy the whole time.
Yeah, no, I did laugh at that. Another thing that I genuinely just laughed at was just the audacity that they have, the sheriff's son, who just is just the sweetest, most innocent, dumb kid, and he makes his dad some breakfast, and it's just this horrifying sludge, and then he doesn't eat it, and he serves it to him in a bag.
Someone's at the back doorbell.
Oh, gall. Sorry, everybody.
That's good.
It's Jack Frost.
Okay.
Time to get snowballed.
Yeah, let me see if I need to actually go to the door real
Please
fast.
don't get murdered. That would make this a really awkward episode.
Take a blow dryer.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
All right, so the kid serves it to his dad in a baggie, and it's supposed to be oatmeal, and then he puts it in his car, and then he almost throws it away, doesn't, and then just throws it in the cop car, and then later they, of course that's setting a gun on the mantle, and then they have to use it, and then when the oatmeal later touches Jack Frost, it is the key to killing him, and and it's oh, what was in the oatmeal, son? Oh, well, I didn't want you to be cold, so I put antifreeze.
So
What the
good.
hell, kid?
I was just like, did that seriously happen? And I just laughed so hard.
Yeah, the idea that kid nearly poisoned his father is pretty delightful.
After he's accused of murdering another kid,
Oh, right.
like...
Yes. Yeah, like right on the heels of that.
Maybe he's the real villain, honestly.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah, the real villain is whoever created this film. But the next person is the kid.
It is the writer of Identity, the John Cusack murder mystery. Have you seen that one?
I haven't.
Oh, it's a good one. If you haven't seen it, don't read anything about it. Just check. I mean, it doesn't terribly hold up, but it was good when it came out in the 90s.
I mean, so what I'm hearing is that this was this bad on purpose, maybe, for Jack Frost. If this person's capable of writing better scripts than this.
I genuinely think that they were leaning into the B movie vibes. I feel like in 97 it was an era of, I mean, this was the year after Scream, right? And I mean, it's a killer snowman. I mean, they were clearly trying to make it a comedy. There was effort.
Sure. I will say one last thing in its favor before we maybe move on to things we didn't like, unless y'all have other things. A few of the practical effects were pretty decent. Like we mentioned, him getting melted was not awful considering how bad their budget was. It was probably 90% of the budget right there. The snowman didn't look as bad as he could have.
I enjoyed like the set pieces of them going through the police station and being chased by the melting and the reforming of it all, and the woman who gets killed and tied up on the Christmas tree. That was a pretty effective and unsettling kill too.
That was a good one. I like that one.
And one that jumped out at me was the moment when the mad scientist comes out and Jack Frost is like inside of him as water, and he's got like the bulbous throat. Yeah. And he's like, fuck it. And he spits out all the water and snow. Because I was like, oh, they must be doing like the Men in Black thing, right? The Edgar human suit thing. But Men in Black came out 1997 also. So I was like, oh, I guess they were not inspired by that.
Maybe they had spies on the set and were reporting back. What can we use from this much better movie and act like it was original for us? So should we tear this apart a little bit more?
Max, do you want to
do the honors?
guys
chime in.
Guys. So Brian, for some context, I'm notorious for actually really despising B movies. I do not
which is
love
why
them.
Which is part of the reason why I wanted to watch it so much.
They just, I don't know. I don't get it. I don't quite understand. Like, yeah, they're funny to talk about after the fact, but to get to the after the fact is just so painful.
I get it. I get that.
You need to watch more Mystery Science Theater with me.
And I think what pissed me off the most about this film was, I'm going to disagree politely with you, Brian and Nathaniel, in that I think these guys were balls serious about what they were doing. Just when I was watching it, the energy, it felt like they were really taking themselves serious and they had this awesome thing. It didn't feel like a B movie to me. And perhaps maybe that's my problem, is I didn't know it was a B movie. So I went into it thinking, okay, this will be, holiday special in the 90s. Like, it will be bad, but I'll be able to tolerate it. And I had to take 4 different breaks today to get through this film. I felt like I was watching an episode of Goosebumps. Like the OG Goosebumps, but not as good.
Don't you insult my Goosebumps.
I love Goosebumps. There's nothing wrong, but it didn't feel like a movie to me. It was like a really long episode of Goosebumps. Like Goosebumps and the snowman that came to life.
Yeah, I would watch that.
Same.
It does have that, very 90s Goosebumpsy vibe. I can see that.
I felt like it also was like a Hallmark movie gone wrong. And I don't love Hallmark movies, but I much would have rather watched a Hallmark movie than this. The acting was atrocious. The lines were corny. The set was bizarre. The plot was all over the FBI guy and the scientist and the like. Oh, we have to kill the snowman in his elemental form. And the FBI guy like shooting the floor, trying to kill the water. If you guys felt the earth tremor a few hours ago, it was my eyes rolling in the back of my head.
Yeah, just everything that you said is why I liked it.
The bathtub scene with the girl, I was very offended that she blow dried her hair and then took a bath. Like, what?
That was the most offensive part.
What? All of the sudden he can shoot like icicles out of his hands and that's how the boy died? Like, I don't know. I can appreciate a film for what it is. I struggled with this. I feel like I wasted my time, if I'm honest. Y'all.
No, because then we get to have this delightful conversation.
That's fair. That's a good point.
Your suffering pleases me.
Ah, good.
Delicious, delicious pain.
I just don't love B films. If I'm going to sit down and take time out of my day, I want something that will at least entertain me. And perhaps I should have watched this with the, Mystery Science Theater. Or perhaps, Nathaniel, you and I should have watched it together, because then it would have been more of a fun experience. But I was just in my bed watching this film, and oh, yikes.
Yeah, I think watching it with people is the way to do it, because that's how I first saw it as a youngin', was like renting the VHS with friends. And even back then there were still elements about this movie that genuinely freaked me out and unsettled me, which does not happen anymore with it. But at the same time, getting to see it with friends and talk about it and do the live riff tracks yourself, I feel like is the way to do a movie like this.
It's a little frustrating too, because we're talking about the 90s, right? That 90s magic. And while this film came out in 97, you have something like Arachnophobia that came out 7 years earlier. And that film kind of has the same energy. It is a little cheesy, corny. The special effects aren't great. But the plot is cohesive and it makes sense. Even if it is outside the realm of reality, it was too much for me. Too much. Granted, I love like Anna and the Apocalypse, and it's singing zombies around Christmas time, so everyone has their thing.
I just watched that for the first time
It's
like
a
2
hoot.
weeks ago.
Yeah, it's
delightful.
a good time.
Yeah.
Is it amazing? No, but it's a good time. So that's my rant. If you guys would like to continue with said rant.
Well, I have no notes. It's a perfect film. You can
Okay. You are the film professor, so
Yes.
imagine if I brought this into a class.
Max
I
would
would
have
pay
walked out
so
of your
much
class.
money to watch that.
I mean, I would get fired so quickly.
Oh, man.
Oh my lord.
Can we just talk about some of Jack's lines?
No.
Because, but please. Look, Ma, I'm a Picasso. Gosh, I only axed you for a smoke.
And that joke was like 3 minutes after the setup, like the punchline, because it's. And then when he gets hit by the car, it's I can see your house from up here.
Yes.
Which I actually Googled. I was like, is that a thing? And I guess it's just it is a joke that gets used it's pitch perfect for this kind of movie where it's like, again, it's not really a joke, but it's one of those things that gets repeated in movies and TV shows as if it's an inside joke, but nobody knows where it came from.
Sarah Palin.
Whoa.
I know.
I can see Russia from my house.
Exactly.
Sarah Palin was inspired by Jack Frost, and it's Alaska. Everything's coming together.
This is why our country is up in flames.
Listen, I got a point I'd like to make, which was actually pretty close to a joke, as he killed him with an icicle. He just said bah humbug. Is it cold in here or is it just me? Yeah, like all of these, again, yeah, I think you nailed it with like, they quack like a joke.
Yeah.
He shouts, "Don't eat yellow snow" at one point.
Oh, yeah.
Love that one.
Good
It
advice.
was just like in the middle of a scene with no context for that. Truly spectacular, the level of terrible one-liners that they committed to. Also, I will say that a lot of the dialogue definitely sounds like it was written by someone who had never heard two people speak to each other ever before.
You have to destroy him in his elemental form. English, Watson, English! 30 seconds before, he gave a very scientific explanation to the deputy, the sheriff, and now he's asking for English. I just can't. I can't. Also, Jack Frost died, 7 times in the film before they actually could take care of him?
That's what I definitely stood out for me, was like, oh man, there's a lot of false endings.
And
here.
when the antifreeze oatmeal burned him, did he bleed? He has vasculature?
Yes.
Does that also
That
revert
was-
to its elemental
yeah.
form? I'm
Well,
confused.
didn't you learn about that when you were getting your biology degree?
I think I missed that class. They showed Jack Frost and I walked out and the professor was fired.
You got an F in frostology.
Yeah, there we go. Ugh.
And he even went to college at the University of Snowmanton.
Yeah.
Yeah. Snowman.
And clearly even the movie's ending is a false ending because we got Jack Frost 2, Revenge of the Killer the Mutant Killer Snowman 3 years later.
Yeah, we do see that he's still bubbling in the antifreeze, so they teed up that he might not be dead.
And if any movie demands a sequel, this movie is not it. Do we have any other final thoughts about this true masterpiece of American cinema before I go and buy my Criterion cut?
It just is it makes me nostalgic for those, the VHS days of seeing those covers on the shelves and being like, what is that? And almost always the box was scarier than the movie. Like, anytime I've actually gone back and watched some of those, especially the 90s horror movies, it's like not nearly as scary as what my imagination dreamed up from seeing that cover art.
That is very true.
Yeah, there was just something about those direct-to-video VHS days that really, really just brought a whole different energy to what movies could be.
Yeah.
Do I miss it? Not really, but I do revel in it. Should we move on to ratings?
Let's.
All right, let's talk screams. How scary is this movie on a scale of 1 to 10? -4.
I gave it a 1.
Yeah, 1.
I gave it a 1 because I did think the special effects right in the beginning, when Jack Frost is sprayed with the acid, that setup was actually pretty decent and pretty gruesome.
Yeah, I'll give it a 1, mostly just for how upset I was by every time I saw the human Jack Frost screaming at the sheriff that he's going to murder him. Mostly just because why should anyone be able to scream that loudly with their entire body?
I'm going to say a nice 2. I initially was going to do a 1, but you know what? I'm going to go with the 2. Mostly because of the abomination that the sheriff's son made. That frightened me. So, 2.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I'm going to go with 2 snowballs,
Which is,
as
of course,
we
the
know,
difference between
the
a snowman
difference-
and a
which is
snow
one of
woman.
the jokes we haven't talked about.
That's true, and it comes up like 17 times.
Oh man, they really hammer it home.
I honestly thought they were going to do a Michael Scott and say boobs, but they didn't.
All right, and let's talk crowns. How much do you like this movie, Max?
This is the first movie I have ever given a 0.
Whoa!
I've seen Llamageddon twice, and each viewing was better than this.
Oh,
So, yeah.
Wow.
a 0. Scream King's history.
I think you're being a Grinch.
No, I embody Christmas.
Or maybe a mean one. If you're going to
no.
go with the bad horror Grinch movie. NJ, what do you give this movie?
A 9.
I'll give it a 10. I'm gonna give it a 4. It is awful. I will agree with you. It is awful, but it is beautifully awful, and it's hilariously awful. So a nice solid 4.
I also am going to go with a 4. I had a blast watching it. It's one of those, like I said, it's that perfect Goldilocks zone of so bad it's good in a way that I adore. Like, yes, it's atrocious, but it is eminently entertaining.
I'm going to challenge both of you a little bit because you watched it with the Mystery Science Theater.
Oh yeah, no. If I watched it without that, it would be like a 2.
Yeah.
Okay,
Maybe.
so
Wow.
do you like the movie or did you like the banter making fun of the movie?
Oh well, if I was basing it solely on the banter, I would give it
No.
an 8.
Do you know what I'm saying though? I think you two watched a different movie than I did because you had that extra banter lifting you up the whole time.
Well, whose fault is that?
Well,
Listen,
I told you to watch it with riff tracks, Max.
I can settle.
Yeah.
I can settle this by saying that it's a nice solid 6. It's a passing grade because I'm glad it exists and I think it's probably the best film about a mutant killer snowman that was ever made.
At least top 3.
Yeah.
Oh, I just delight in how much you hated that, Max. Oh man.
guys, like I said, 4 breaks. I didn't have any alcohol to make it better either.
Oof.
See, you did this to yourself, is what I'm hearing.
Ugh. I am not available for any other B movies until second quarter.
Moving on, I really want to throw out this question because this is something I keep thinking about. So, why are most Christmas horror pieces slashers? Like, obviously, we got Candy Cain and we got Jack Frost. But, like 90% of what we see coming out as far as, Christmas horror are just straight up slashers. What about Christmas time and spooky equals a slasher?
This I can answer quite well for you. You have people congregating with family that they typically don't speak to, most of the year. Especially in these last, 8 years, or I don't even know what year it is. But, when Trump, that kind of ruined a bunch of holiday stuff, I would definitely say. So you get all these people, it's a pressure cooker, you're under one roof, there's all these familial expectations, tensions, grudges, and it just bubbles over. So I feel like it just lends itself well to a slasher.
Yeah.
Yes,
also-
but counterpoint, a lot of them are sorority girls getting murdered by Santa.
Well, I mean, they live in a house and they're
yeah.
a family.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, I think that's so true. And I think that also this is a holiday centered around the myth of a man who sneaks into your home while you're asleep. So there's already a mythology that aligns pretty neatly with the slasher paradigm.
Well, and I kind of to echo what NJ was saying, I think Christmas at its core is celebrating love and gratitude and the light, and so to pervert that and turn it into a murderous kind of a thing that takes what Christmas is at its core and poisons it essentially. And I mean, Nathaniel, you and I have talked a lot about how we really enjoy a holiday horror because it is taking something good and turning it on its head, and that's kind of unsettling, and we don't like that as humans.
Yeah.
The first Silent Night, Deadly Night was the subject of a very big boycott because of the poster image of Santa coming down the chimney with an axe, and Mickey Rooney famously was one of the people who really came out against it and talked about how perverse it was. And then he starred in Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 4, The Toy Maker. So, just goes to show you that if you don't like holiday horror, just, you'll come around.
It'll find you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we have truly had an experience with this episode. We've had some firsts. So, other than obviously watching this just masterpiece of a film, how is everyone staying spooky lately?
Well, I will jump in. I don't know if you would necessarily say this is spooky, but I am currently binging the entire Animorph series, which, I mean, I feel like, parasites that go into your brain and control you are a bit spooky. In preparation for a very special guest next year. I'm twiddling my mustache.
Yes, that you definitely have.
I've seen it. It's real long.
It's the Nair. Or no, Rogaine. Shit.
Rogaine shit.
Oh, no. That sounds like it would burn.
She's a doctor.
I'm a learned doctor. You respect
I
me.
did go meta school.
Brian, were you an Animorphs kid?
I was. Both Animorphs and Goosebumps. Those cover images are amazing.
Well, be jealous of us because we have a special Animorphs guest.
Is it a horse?
You know it.
It's a woman becoming a horse.
Mid-transformation.
It's the mid-transform version.
Those are the best.
Not a human, not a horse, not a centaur, not a mantar.
Yes. She's just like, happy to be here.
Brian, how are you staying spooky?
I've been reading some spooky stuff. I'm currently reading an arc of a novella called I Can See Your Lies by Izzy Lee. She's a wonderful filmmaker who made Meat Friend, for those who saw that at StokerCon a couple years ago. But yeah, it's coming out from Dark Matter Books, and recently read The Body Harvest by Michael J. Seidlinger. That one's real messed up and grotesque. Both of those will be coming out next year at some point, but yeah.
Hey, Max, how are you staying spooky?
Yeah, I am watching the newest season of Dragula by the Boulet brothers. For anybody who likes Drag Race and horror, the Boulet brothers are some awesome drag artists who fully embrace the weird and the macabre. And it's pretty cool because they also have some drag kings on this season, and they are much better than the drag queens. Just kind of a cool, fresh take on the whole Drag Race thing, plus horror. Like the last episode I watched, all of the drag queens and kings, it was an alien theme, so they had to dress up like their spookiest alien, but in drag. So kind of fun.
Ooh,
It is on Shudder. Y'all should check it out.
that looks
That sounds
awesome.
delightful.
Yeah.
It's a hoot. There are 5 seasons now. The first 2 seasons are pretty bare bones, but then they kind of contracted with Shudder, and Shudder filled them with life. And it's messy. A lot of the queens are really dramatic in really contrived ways, but it's just part of the fun. The cool thing, too, that they do for elimination challenges, instead of lip syncing like you would see in Drag Race, you have to get the trashiest tattoo, and whoever has the more trashy tattoo stays and the other goes. Or you have to lay in a bed filled with like weevils and maggots, and whoever doesn't freak out gets to stay and the other person has to go. So it's
So
a
like
hodgepodge of a lot.
Fear Factor, but with drag queens.
Yeah, with
Got
drag
it.
queens.
I love it.
That are horror themed.
Correct. Yeah, if you're looking for RuPaul's Drag Race, this is not the place you will find it. One of their drag categories is filth, so...
Anyway, Nathaniel, what are you doing?
I have been reading, specifically just listening to a lot of audiobooks recently, because I have
home decorating projects and all of the fun things like that. And so while I've been doing all of that, I have been listening to a lot of spooky stories. Specifically, most recently, I'm listening to a John Langan collection, which is called The Wide Carnivorous Sky and Other Monstrous Geographies. John Langan is amazing in general. Like, I had only read his book, The Fisherman, which is excellent, very Lovecraftian. But his short stuff is also just all bangers. I'll highlight that in this particular collection, there is a piece that is actually a play, like it's a play script, and it's basically the play Our Town in a zombie apocalypse, and it is so brilliant, and it makes me jealous that he thought of it first. So, high praise, highly recommend listening or picking up a copy of any of his stuff, but his short story collections seem to be a particularly powerful vein of creepy Lovecraftian horror. I think that pretty well covers it, other than where can people find you, Brian?
You can find me coming down your chimney, hiding under your tree.
You are the elf on the shelf, right?
Yeah. Melting into the snow and fusing with my molecular structure. I am on mostly Instagram, Threads. I'm still on Twitter. All at Brian with an I, Brian McWriter. And my website is also brianmcwriter.com. And yeah, that's where I'm at.
And of course, everyone should go and buy Candy Cain Kills and should buy Curse of the Reaper. They're both delightful books. I loved both of them.
Thank you so much. Yeah, they're both all the three are available, or all two are available in paperback, ebook, and audio.
And I guess with that, stay spooky.
Stay spooky.
Stay spooky.
Thanks, y'all, for having me. Stay spooky.